Is your horse happy? How can you tell? In today's Clarity Horsemanship video theory lesson, we're talking about the 2 signs that your horse is emotionally ready to be with you and how you can help him get to that point. In the world of animal behavior, we define emotional states along 2 scales, affective state and arousal. Those are both complicated words, but I'll show you what they mean with some diagrams. Then you can practice identifying horses in different states with some photos. Finally, we will combine both arousal and affect together and discuss how to keep a horse in the optimal affective state and arousal level for safe and fun interactions. You can think of affective state like optimism or pessimism. A horse in a positive affective state is optimistic, expecting whatever is about to happen to turn out well. A horse in a negative affective state is pessimistic, expecting what is about to happen to end poorly. Long term, we want every horse to have positive affect. The whole sum of their experiences should add up to something positive so that, in general, they meet new situations with optimism. Affect can be long-term or short-term, however. Negative affect in a moment is not necessarily a bad thing and can be seen as an opportunity to change the horse's mind and create more positive affect. When a horse remains in a negative affective state long-term, the effects are similar to long-term stress in humans, and the health and well-being of the horse begins to suffer. When working with a horse, the higher the affective state, the better. Many experienced horses, like lesson horses, hang out around the middle of the scale, ready for whatever happens to happen and not really worrying about it. As the horse progresses towards positive affect, they are better able to learn new things, their demeanor becomes more pleasant, and their curiosity increases. As a horse travels down the scale towards negative affect, their ability to learn is decreased and their expressions look more grumpy. A horse in a negative affective state is not very curious. Your behavior can affect your horse's affective state. A pleasant attitude and consistent method of handling the horse allows him to form positive predictions of your behavior in future. If you are unpredictable, this can tend to push a horse towards negative affect. Let's practice seeing affective state in a few photos. Here's the first one. Tesla is investigating Peppa Pig, who wasn't sitting up there last time she was in the stall. Curiosity is a great indication of a positive affective state. If she were expecting Peppa to attack her, she wouldn't try to say hi. So Tesla is on the positive affect state of the scale. This is optimal, and I don't need to do anything to try to improve the affect. This fellow's name is Cooper. I used to turn him out in the mornings, but before he could go out, his blanket had to go on, and the process was not fun. He would greet me every morning with ears back until his blanket was on and we were heading to the field. Then the ears would come up again. If I went to bring him in again in the evening, I'd be greeted the same way. This is an example of negative affect. To improve his affect, I would listen to him and take my time. If I hurried with the blanket, his state worsened, but if I took my time and was careful not to pinch or shock him as I went and gave plenty of scratches, his demeanor improved over time. Context also matters when determining affective state. That means that what is going on around the horse must also be taken into account. This little mare's expression could be taken as a mild threat towards my hand approaching the lead rope, but I know that just before the picture was taken there was some noise in the trees behind us, and so her attention was shifted there. Taken as a moment in time without that context, she could be classified as mildly negative on the scale, but knowing the context, I'd put her right in the middle, because at this point in time she could go either way. To tip her over into positive affect, I could use that hand approaching her to give her a rub where she likes it, or to cue for a simple response and make much of it when she does it correctly. Arousal is the second signal of emotional wellness. Arousal refers to how awake a horse is. A sleeping horse would get a score of 0. A horse in a blind panic gets a score of 10. Arousal changes rapidly and should stay as a short-term signal. A horse stuck in a low level of arousal could be ill, and one stuck high on the scale exhibits chronic stress. As with affective state, there is an optimal level of arousal that keeps the horse engaged and the rider or handler safe. The middle of the arousal scale is the place to be. Too high, and the horse will not learn or respond effectively, as its first priority is to save its life. Too low, and the horse will also not learn or respond as effectively and will seem sleepy. Your behavior when handling a horse can affect arousal. You can lower arousal by acting, moving, and speaking in a calm, confident, and reassuring way. If you need to increase arousal, make your movements a little quicker and more purposeful. Jerky movements, sudden noises, and high-pitched sounds are things horses do not like, so avoid them in your own behavior to maintain an optimal level of arousal. Let's practice spotting arousal levels. The first horse here is making me yawn. His eyes are closed, ears relaxed, and licking his lips. He's not lying out on the ground sleeping though, so we'll give him a score of 1 or 2. The second horse, we aren't trying to do anything with this horse, so we can let him sleep. But if we wanted to halter him and do some work, we'd have to cue several simple responses in fairly rapid succession to start bringing him up towards our optimal level of 5. The second horse is seeing a herd of alpacas. His head is up and he is alert, but not showing signs of trying to run away. I would place him at about 6 on the arousal scale. To ensure arousal doesn't creep any higher, we'll let him satisfy his curiosity in looking at the strange creatures, and then ask him for some simple responses that he already knows to check in on how he is feeling. If he accomplishes them easily, we're all good. If it's a little hard for him, we'll work on those simple things until they are easy again, and then we can continue our ride. Finally, these 3 are having a fine time playing together. They aren't going flat out and are still planning out what they're doing. They aren't in a blind panic, but rather are playful. I'd put them at level 9. Before haltering these girls to do any work, I would let them play themselves out and be ready for a rest. If a horse were at this level from fear rather than playfulness, he is already too highly aroused to learn anything helpful from the situation, so removing him from the fearful situation and doing some calm, easy work that he knows will help to lower arousal again. Arousal and affect work together. A horse may have a positive affect but be highly aroused, like those fillies playing, or negative affect and high arousal, a very fearful horse. Being able to determine both arousal and affect helps you create an effective plan of what to do in that situation. In the first photo on the left, Tesla is seeing cows for the first time. Her general state is positive affect, but here she could go either way as it is a new situation. Reassuring touch and behavior from me can help keep her on the positive scale. Her arousal level is creeping up at the same time. I can see the white above her eyes and her nostrils are flared in case she needs to run away. I'd put her at arousal level of 7. To come back down to a nice 5, I'll need to influence her affective state to remain positive with my own demeanor and behavior, and cue and reward some simple behaviors so she feels she's in control of the situation again. In the photo on the right at the top, Tesla is enjoying her favorite thing ever, an ear massage. Definitely positive affect, and she looks pretty well asleep. We'll give that a 0 on the arousal scale. And finally, in the last photo, Tesla has just spotted the camera in the bushes behind the arena here. She's looking, but not trying very hard to avoid it, and even showing a bit of curiosity in coming towards it. We'll call that positive affect, and an optimal arousal level of 5. I could ask her to do anything at this point, and she could do it, probably even a bit better than usual, because she is definitely awake and thinking. So, is your horse happy? Try to evaluate affective state and arousal level next time you go to the field to catch a horse. Once you're inside and grooming, think about it again. As you start your warm-up, evaluate again, and partway through the ride. Once more as you unsaddle, and lastly as you're walking back to the pen. Keeping constant tabs on where your horse is at helps you to stay safe and to help keep your horse happy. Try changing your behavior to bring your horse to optimal levels of arousal and affective state.